Welcome to the Heartbreak Chronicles, where every story is a raw reflection of life. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned, give us a like to show your support, and share this episode with your friends. Don't forget to leave a comment and let us know what you think. Now, let's dive into today's story. My name is Nathan, and I am a construction engineer. In this bustling metropolis, my wife Olivia and I live an enviable life. Olivia is a freelance writer, and we live a comfortable and peaceful life, at least on the surface. As an engineer, I'm often immersed in complex drawings and project proposals that waste of time working late into the night. I love Olivia dearly. She's the jewel of my life. It's my harbor when I'm tired. Whenever I come home late at night from working overtime, I always see a warm light she left for me. It makes me feel incredibly happy. However, the peace was completely shattered that night. That day, I worked late into the night as usual. When I dragged my tired body home, I found the light in the study still on. I thought to myself, Olivia must be waiting for me. However, upon pushing open the door, I found the room empty. I walked over to my desk, ready to check on my progress for the day, and only to suddenly realize that my flash drive was gone. That flash drive stored key drawings for an important architectural project I was responsible for. It's vital for me. I began to rummage anxiously, turning the entire den upside down. Just as I was about to give up, my eyes fell on the trash can. Out of some sort of intuition, I decided to check the trash can. My heart almost stopped when I opened the lid of the trash can. Among the various scraps of paper and trash, I found a small box. It was a box of condoms, and it had been opened. My mind went blank as a million questions flashed through my mind. What's going on here? Why are there condoms in our trash? Olivia and I haven't used a condom in a long time, because we've been planning to have a baby. Just then I heard the bedroom door open and Olivia walked out. She looked a little surprised and asked, "Nathan, why are you so late?" I asked calmly as I tried to control my emotions. "Olivia, do you know what this is?" I held up the box of condoms. Olivia's face instantly turned pale as she stammered. "Oh, that was an accidental purchase on my part. I meant to throw it away, but forgot." I looked into her eyes, trying to find a hint of a lie in them. But Olivia quickly averted her eyes and began to gather her things from the desk. "By the way, I put your flash drive in the drawer for you," she said, "and I'm afraid you won't find it." I nodded woodenly and took the flash drive out of the drawer. But that little plastic box had planted a seed of doubt in my mind. I remembered the webcam I'd installed earlier to monitor the security of my study. It was decided to secretly view the footage to find the truth. I hope my suspicions are wrong and that this is all just a ridiculous misunderstanding. But as I lay in bed, listening to Olivia's steady breathing, and I couldn't get to sleep, I closed my eyes and kept replaying the past in my mind. I thought back to our first date, to the tears in her eyes when I asked her to marry me. Think of the moment we exchanged vows in church. These fond memories seem so ironic at the moment. I know that from tonight onwards, our lives will no longer be peaceful. I had to find out the truth, no matter how heartbreaking that truth would be. Because what I can't stand more than deception is uncertainty. Tomorrow, I will begin my secret investigation. I'll be checking out the footage for any suspicious clues. I know this could completely change my life, but I have no choice. Because sometimes the truth is harsher than a lie. But only by facing the truth can we be truly liberated. Just when I was agonizing over whether or not Olivia was being faithful, an unexpected phone call interrupted my thoughts. It's my old friend Alex. "Nathan, you've got to come see this." Alex's voice drips with excitement that I just received an old piano, and you'll never guess what I found in it. Alex runs an antique store and is always finding something interesting. Even though all I can think about right now is Olivia, still, Alex's enthusiasm piqued my curiosity. "Okay, I'll be right over," I promised. Hopefully this will be a distraction. Half an hour later, I'm standing in Alex's antique store, looking at the old piano in front of him that looked a bit old. It's a little mottled on the outside, but you can still see the flamboyance of yesteryear. "Look here." Alex excitedly opens the lid of the piano and points to a hidden compartment inside. I found it when I was organizing the strings. He carefully removed a yellow journal from a hidden compartment and handed it to me. I flipped through the diary. The writing in it was a little fuzzy, but still legible. Dear Diary, today is the first time I've met Thomas. He's my new student, young and handsome, plays the piano with passion. I continued to read on, slowly being drawn into the story described in the diary. This is the diary of a piano teacher that chronicles her growing bond with a young student. However, the last few pages of the diary gave me chills. We can't go on like this. Thomas says he's found a place where we can be together forever. But it means leaving everything behind. What do I do? I looked up at Alex, and the look on his face told me that he'd read the diary too. Do you realize what this means? Alex said, lowering his voice. I think it might have something to do with the unsolved case of the piano teacher and student who both disappeared 10 years ago. I sucked in a cold breath. I remember that case. It was a big deal, but in the end it went nowhere. A well-known piano teacher and one of her students mysteriously disappear after a concert. Never again. We should take this to the police, I said. Alex shook his head. Wait, Nathan, haven't you always been interested in detective stories? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to investigate this case for ourselves. I hesitated. On the one hand, I knew it could get me in trouble, but on the other hand, it really is the perfect opportunity to take my mind off of Olivia for a while. Okay, I finally agreed, but we have to be careful. Over the next few days, I began to delve into this journal. As a construction engineer, I took special note of some of the architectural details mentioned in the diary. One description caught my attention. Thomas showed me the place. It was an abandoned warehouse with ivy climbing up the outside walls, most especially the arched entrance that reminds me of an old church. The description reminded me of an old industrial area on the outskirts of town. There were indeed some abandoned warehouses there, one of which did have a unique arched entrance. However, just as I was about to go to the field, a call from Olivia interrupted my plans. Nathan, what's gotten into you lately? Her voice was filled with concern that, you're always distracted. Is something wrong at work? My heart suddenly seized. Despite doubting Olivia, I felt a pang of guilt at hearing her concerned tone. Nothing, just a little stressed at work. I lied. By the way, I might be working late tonight, so you don't have to wait for me for dinner. After hanging up, I let out a long sigh. I know I shouldn't have lied to Olivia, but I really can't face her right now. I need some time and space to clear my head. I drove to the abandoned warehouse. As I stood in front of that arched entrance, a strange feeling came over me. Whatever happened here? Where did the lovers end up? I walked cautiously into the warehouse. It was filled with all sorts of discarded items and was thick with dust. I turned on my flashlight and started searching every corner carefully. Just as I was about to give up, my flashlight beam caught a small box in a corner. I picked up the box, blew the dust off of it, and found that it contained some old photographs. My heart is racing. The photo is of a smiling man and woman in the background of this very warehouse. I immediately recognized the woman as the missing piano teacher, and that young man would be Thomas. This discovery excited me, but at the same time it made me feel a tinge of sadness. They looked so happy in that picture, but in the end, it chose to disappear. What kind of love can make someone give up everything? I stood in the empty warehouse and felt a sudden pang of loneliness. I think of Olivia and the sweet times we had. Could it be that our love will end up disappearing in the river of time, just like these two lovers? I shook my head, trying to dispel the disturbing thoughts. I have a case to solve and a truth to find out. Whatever the outcome, I have to face it. With these photos and thoughts, I left the warehouse. The night was dark, but I knew that the dawn of truth might not be far off. And in the meantime, the truth about my own marriage was about to surface. As I drove home, my mind kept replaying the day's discoveries. The story of those lovers was like a mirror reflecting the shadow of my own marriage. Are Olivia and I, too, heading for a fork in the road without realizing it? When I opened the door to my house, it was pitch black. Olivia should be asleep by now. I walked gingerly into my study, turned on my computer, and started going through the security footage that I've been avoiding. I knew that from this moment on, my life could change forever. But like the lovers who mysteriously disappeared, There are some truths that are worth dropping everything to pursue. Whatever the outcome, I'm ready to face it. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, debating whether or not to press play. The study was silent, with only the sound of my rapid breathing echoing in my ears. I knew that once I started watching these surveillance videos, there was no going back. Taking a deep breath, I finally made up my mind and hit play. At first, the picture only shows familiar scenes of our daily lives. Olivia works at her desk, sometimes answers the phone, and seems all right. But as I fast-forwarded to last Tuesday afternoon, my heart suddenly clenched. Olivia takes a phone call, then quickly gathers her things and leaves the room. 10 minutes later, she returned, but not alone. A tall man followed her. I recognized him as Olivia's fitness instructor, Jack. The next image made me drop like a stone. Olivia and Jack start kissing, and then I couldn't keep watching. I turned off the video and felt a wave of heaven. My guess was right. Olivia betrayed me. Those wonderful memories, those times we spent together. It all becomes so ironic at the moment. I felt a strong wave of nausea and rushed to the bathroom and began to vomit. When I returned to my study, I noticed the journal on my desk about the missing piano teacher. Suddenly, I felt some kind of strange connection to that teacher. We're all deep in a complicated relationship, and we're all faced with difficult choices. I turned to my journal and reread the last few pages. The piano teacher wrote in her last journal entry, "We decided to get out of here and start over somewhere where no one would recognize us. But I'm afraid of the unknown future, afraid of whether we've made the right choice." I closed my diary and thought about it. Has Olivia and I reached the end of our marriage as well? Do we also need to make a hard choice? Just then, my cell phone rang. It's Alex. "Nathan, you won't believe what I found." Alex's voice was filled with excitement. That I checked the history of that warehouse. And guess what? There used to be a piano store there. The news sobered me up instantly. Are you saying that that warehouse might be where the piano teacher and her students were last seen? Most likely. Alex said, "We should go there again. Maybe we can find more clues." I looked at my watch and it was 3 in the morning. But I know I can't sleep at all at this moment. Okay, we'll go now. Half an hour later, Alex and I were standing in front of that abandoned warehouse. In the moonlight, that arched entrance looked particularly mysterious. We cautiously entered the warehouse and began searching every corner carefully. Suddenly, Alex called out, "Nathan, come look at this." I ran over to see Alex crouching in front of a pile of broken boards. He removed a few boards to reveal a small hidden compartment in the floor. We held our breath and opened the hidden compartment. Inside sat a small box, which was covered in a thick layer of dust. I carefully opened the box, and inside was a stack of yellowed letters and some old photos. I picked up the top letter and read it by the light of my flashlight. "Dear Sarah, I know our choice will break a lot of hearts, but I believe it's worth it. You are the best note in my life, and without you, my life is like a tune without a melody. We will start a new journey where no one will judge our love. I've arranged everything. Tomorrow, we'll be together forever. Love you always. Thomas." Alex and I looked at each other and both realized that we may have uncovered the truth of this unsolved case. Sarah is the missing piano teacher and Thomas is her student. They didn't disappear, they chose to flee together. But where did they end up? Has their love stood the test of time? These questions remain unanswered. Just then, my cell phone suddenly rang. It's Olivia. I hesitated, but picked up the phone. "Nathan, where are you?" Olivia's voice was laced with sobs, and "I woke up and realized you weren't home and I was worried." I don't know what to say. On the one hand, I was angry at her betrayal. On the other hand, I felt a twinge of heartache hearing her worried voice. I'm out running some errands." I finally said, "Be back soon." I felt a wave of exhaustion as I hung up the phone. Alex tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Man, you look like you need a break. Let's go back and continue the investigation tomorrow." I nodded and followed Alex out of the warehouse. On the way home, the story of Sarah and Thomas kept flashing through my mind, as well as my own marriage. 2 relationships, both full of deception and betrayal, that could have ended very differently. When I got home, Olivia was sitting in the living room waiting for me. Her eyes were red and swollen, and she had obviously been crying. When she saw me enter, she immediately stood up. "Nathan, we need to talk." Her voice trembled. I looked at her and felt a sudden wave of exhaustion. All the anger, pain, and confusion turned into deep exhaustion in this moment. "Yes, we do need to talk," I said, "but not right now. I need some time, some space." Olivia nodded, tears welling up again. I turned and went upstairs, locking myself in my study. I sat at my desk and looked at the pictures on it. That's me and Olivia's wedding photo with happy smiles on our faces. At that time, we thought our love could conquer all, but now, that smile seemed so ironic. I picked up Sarah's diary and turned to the last page. It reads, "Is love worth giving up everything?" I don't know, but I knew that if I didn't try, I would regret it for the rest of my life. I closed my journal and let out a long sigh. Sarah and Thomas chose to give up everything to pursue their love. And Olivia and I, is there any chance of redemption? Our marriage, like that old piano that used to play beautiful music, but now it's covered in dust and the strings are broken. I don't know if we'll ever be able to fix it and make it sound melodious again. But one thing is clear to me, as Sarah wrote in her diary. Whatever the outcome, we should at least try. Because there are some things that are worth dropping everything to pursue. With that in mind, I slowly walked towards the bedroom. It's time to have a good talk with Olivia. Whatever the outcome, we need to face the truth of this. Like the missing lovers, bravely facing our choices and our future. I stood in the bedroom doorway, my hand on the doorknob, but hesitated to push it open. I knew that once I took this step, my relationship with Olivia would change forever. Taking a deep breath, I gently pushed the door open. Olivia sat on the edge of the bed and looked up at me with tears and guilt in her eyes. We were speechless relative to each other, and there was a heaviness in the air. "Nathan," Olivia finally broke the silence. "I'm sorry. I know apologizing probably won't make up for my mistakes, but I'm really sorry." I sat in the chair across from her and felt a wave of exhaustion. "Why, Olivia? Is our marriage so worthless to you?" She shook her head, tears coming to her eyes. "No, it's not. I love you, Nathan. I don't know. Maybe I just lost myself for a moment." I'm reminded of Sarah's diary. Think of the intense, disorienting feelings she described. "Are you in love with him? The fitness instructor?" Olivia froze for a moment, then shook her head firmly. "No, I don't love him. It was just a momentary impulse. I know it sounds like an excuse, but I really regret it." We lapsed into silence. A million images flashed through my mind. Our first date, the nerves I felt when I asked her to marry me, the moment we exchanged vows in church. All those fond memories are now overshadowed. "You know," I spoke up, "I've been working on an old case lately. A piano teacher and her student who fall in love and then choose to disappear together." Olivia looks at me curiously, not understanding why I'm bringing this up all of a sudden. I continued, "They gave up everything just to be together. I've always wondered what kind of love could make someone make such a choice." "So did you come to any conclusions?" Olivia asked softly. I laughed bitterly. "I don't. But I do know that their choices are not easy. It takes great courage to give up everything and face an unknown future." I stood up and walked over to the window. Outside, the sky was beginning to whiten and dawn was approaching. "Olivia, our marriage is like that old piano. At one time, it made beautiful music, but now it's covered in dust and the strings are broken. I don't know if we'll ever be able to fix it." Olivia walks over to me and gently takes my hand. "Nathan, I would do anything to save our marriage. I know I made a huge mistake, but please give me a chance." I looked into her eyes, which were filled with sincerity and remorse. I remembered the last sentence in Sarah's diary. "If I don't try, I'll regret it for the rest of my life." "Maybe," I said slowly, "we can try to fix it, but it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes trust." Olivia nodded, a hopeful glint in her eye. "I'm willing to put in all the effort." Just then, my cell phone rang. "It's Alex." "Nathan, you have to come see this." Alex's voice was full of excitement. I found out where Sarah and Thomas are. Olivia and I exchanged a look before we rushed off together to Alex's antique store. When we arrived, Alex was already waiting at the door. He waved a stack of papers excitedly. "Look at this, you guys." I took the file and began to skim through it. It was some old newspaper clippings and some official documents. One of the stories caught my attention. Mystery couple donates large sum to establish music school. A couple who wished to remain anonymous donated a substantial amount of money to the city yesterday for the establishment of a music school for underprivileged children. The couple are both known to be music educators. I continued to read on and suddenly, I saw a blurry picture. Despite the age, I recognized the person in the photo. It was Sarah and Thomas. "They didn't disappear," I whispered. "They just chose to live another way." Olivia leaned over to me and whispered, "They chose to continue their love with music." The three of us stood there for a long time without words. There's finally an ending to Sarah and Thomas's story. It wasn't as dramatic as we expected, but it was full of warmth and hope. "You know," Alex said suddenly, "I think we should make this story public. It is a story of love, courage, and redemption." I nodded, feeling a sudden wave of relief. Not only did this case solve a perennial mystery, it also gave me a new perspective on my marriage. I turned to Olivia and whispered, "Maybe we can learn from them too. It's not about running away, it's about facing. Rebuild our relationship on our terms." Tears glistened in Olivia's eyes, but a smile hung at the corners of her mouth. "I do. Let's write our new music together." We left the antique store and walked in the morning light. The city is waking up and a new day is about to begin. I know that Olivia and I have a long way to go in our relationship. Trust takes time to rebuild. Wounds take time to heal. But like Sarah and Thomas, we chose to face it. We chose to try. In the days that followed, we began the difficult but necessary process of reconciliation. We received marriage counseling to learn how to rebuild trust. Olivia quit that fitness instructor program to focus on our relationship. I've also learned to express my feelings more and stop closing myself off. Meanwhile, Alex and I began to organize Sarah and Thomas's story. We contacted that music school and learned that this mysterious couple had been quietly sponsoring underprivileged students to study music for years. Their love, which lives on in this way, has influenced generations of young people. When our article was published, it attracted a lot of attention. People were moved by this love story that transcends time and space. Even more moved by the choices Sarah and Thomas ultimately make. Instead of choosing to hide forever, they gave back to the community in their own way. Such courage and wisdom is admirable. One night, Olivia and I were sitting in the living room, listening to an old record Sarah and Thomas made when they were young. The beautiful sound of the piano filled the room, as if telling of the love that spanned time and space. Olivia leaned over my shoulder and whispered, "Nathan, thank you for giving us a chance to start over." I held her hand and felt her warmth. "We have a long way to go, but I believe we can do it." Yes, our marriage is like that old piano. It was once dusty and the strings were broken. But now, little by little, we're fixing it, retuning it, trying to make it play beautifully again. I know that the process won't be smooth sailing. We may still encounter setbacks and difficulties. But like Sarah and Thomas, we chose to face it. We chose to try. Because there are some things that are worth dropping everything to pursue. And love, no doubt, is one of them. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.